It's so wonderful to see everybody and to be here again. I missed coming last year, so this is so special for me. And so many familiar faces, so many new friends that are familiar from other lifetimes. It's just wonderful. Thank you, Eli, wherever you are, for putting on this amazing event and for all the team that has helped put this together. It's so incredible. I've been getting a lot of really beautiful rest here. So yeah, I know my talk is called The Hijack of Ascension, not meaning that it's hijack for good, but all the attempts to interfere with the organic ascension and our awakening is pretty profound. So I'm going to get into that, particularly focusing around the zodiac and the weaponization of the zodiac, because pretty much everything's been weaponized to a certain degree. When you look at geoengineering, chemtrails, dark weaponry that's used to influence weather patterns and elements, the same thing goes for humans with mind control, social engineering, bioengineering, and all these different attempts to modify us and steer us down an artificial trajectory. So where do I get my information from? You can kind of scan that. Do I have 90 minutes today? Is that right? Yeah. Okay, just so I know how to kind of pace myself. But just an idea of where I get my information from. So my favorite is Life Experience, Soul Journey. I did go to a clairvoyant institute, which is very eye-opening. It was kind of an accident. I bumped into it. Realizations and epiphanies along the way. Wilderness education background. Wilderness expedition leadership. That was really helpful, especially going to high school outside of DC. I was dressed like I was going to climb mountains. People are like, there are no mountains around here. I'm like, I'm heading to the mountains. Science degree, associates in science. Recruited to go off planet, but I refused. Whistleblower testimony and research, cosmic mythology studies, astrology, Keylontic science. Lisa Renee, energeticsynthesis.com. This is where I found just so much resonance with the downloads I have been getting throughout my life, but put in such technical terms that I refer to some of that in these slides. And so yeah, some of my material is inspired by some of that material. And just researching, connecting dots, and getting downloads, mostly where this comes from, pulling in material that is in resonance to what has been coming through. Some of the pictures are from energeticsynthesis.com, and Lisa Renee and I have been great friends for a really long time. And if you guys know who she is, you'll know why. Oh my gosh, she's just a wealth of knowledge and grid work and just wonderful. So I'm going to start with this. Not before this, even though there's a lot before this, before we drop down into this lower harmonic universe. Starting with the Lyra, well, the Guardian Founder races, the Cosmic Trinity, Lyra, the Lyran Wars, the Orion Wars, Tara, Tiamat exploding, dropping down into this lower harmonic universe. So once we drop down into this lower harmonic universe, this is a remedial tone that they have tried to keep out since the fall of Atlantis particularly. So it's tried to anchor in. It wasn't able to anchor in before the Anunnaki and other invading groups came in. And it doesn't always have to anchor in, but when things get so bad and so inverted, that's when it comes. 12 strands of DNA, 12 stargates, 12 zodiac signs, houses, and so on. 12 apostles, but then there's the 13, right? So we'll talk about the 13. I know a lot of you are familiar with the 13. And the 13 in this particular creation, or Earth, has been a remedial flame and tone that this whole system has been rigged to keep from anchoring in. Literally the whole system and the inversions and the weaponization of nature itself, even though in the higher dimensional levels you can't weaponize a 0-point unified field. This is a remedial tone that they have tried to keep out since the fall of Atlantis particularly. So it's tried to anchor in. It wasn't able to anchor in before the Anunnaki and other invading groups came in. And it doesn't always have to anchor in, but when things get so bad and so inverted, that's when it comes in to be a part of this, creation. So the fall of the Sophionic energy, after there was already a fracture, added to a lot of the different challenges going on. So the 13 is considered the remedial Sophionic energy that is all about the correction and all about helping the fallen Sophia come home again. And in that, fallen angels, Luciferian rebellions, and all inversion can be corrected because it can only really be corrected through us. So when we align with that energy and we begin to break down the programming and the inversions and the false light or negative ego or the unclaimed creative womb of creation within ourselves, by avoiding the underworlds, which all of us do not do, right? We are able to really neutralize all that is happening, all that has gone on. And so this 13, this energy is present. It's been able to anchor into the planetary core. And it's taken a while, this whole 26,000 year cycle since the Atlantean cataclysms. So they, are really trying to keep us distracted away from it. That's all they really have left, because there's no way to reverse the fact that it's landed. And in its presence here, it braids the 12 strand back into the 12 tree grid. So our DNA is a replica of the planetary grid network. And the 12 tree grid was designed to help reassemble the original avatar DNA of the human being in the lower harmonic universes and reclaim all aspects back into wholeness. But without the 13 landing, it's just been in fragmentation. Even the zodiac was weaponized. And so the 12 tones, the 12 flames, the stargates, the whole planetary grid network, and how that has influenced us has made it very, very difficult for us to do this without that 13th tone landing. And it comes as a force through individuals, like many of you. And it's a part of the diamond sun in the core of this planet. And it's the return, it's the ascension. And we're a part of it, of course. So the fact that there's been engineered timelines and there's still manipulation going on, it's not like they're ever going to really want to stop, right? They're just, that's all they know how to do. So they're not really going to quit. Eventually they will, because we exhaust them, we override them, and it's our endurance that really is all we need, because we know what we're doing. Just being in our truth and in our authenticity and coming together, being this family that we are, this unified group, and leading by example and holding this so strongly. If we just maintain that without allowing things to poke holes in us and create conquer and divide and fragmentation and division, we're doing the work. So when we're not, and we easily fall into this lower spectrum of frequency, and we end up getting caught in the web of programmings and divide and conquer agendas and negative ego and the weaponized aspects of the zodiac, where the psyops and false flags hook us in, and we're just on this artificial trajectory that's engineered. We're on that sort of descending hub, and it's very unstable. And so I compare it to like a really bad partner that you want to divorce. And that puts it in simple terms, because everything's about relationship with creation. We're either in relationship with the inverted trajectory that's engineered, or we're in relationship with the high frequency ascending hub, which is connection to Earth, connection to cosmos, our multidimensional nature, and the higher octaves of the planetary system, planetary alignments, and the true essence of the zodiac. And that's when we know to break up with this lower form and know what we're worth, and that we deserve true love with creation, a true love partner, not this abusive, deceiving version that we might not recognize as deceiving us at first, but enough red flags, enough peeking at that cell phone, what are you doing? Enough mistreatment where your self-worth is being used against you because you've given that power away. And that definitely leads to, especially after narcissistic abuse, whether you're a male or female, it's not gender specific, you eventually say enough, you get a divorce. You know you're wanting a better trajectory of true love. So divorces can be sticky. And so we're all at different phases. Some of us not even born married to that lower partner, right? But we're all at different phases of that breakup. And because it's an inverted system, an addiction matrix, that dependency bond has gotten its hooks in, in so many ways, all sorts of people, and is passed down generation to generation. And even if you're fully awakened, there's still maybe some kind of hook it still has in you. But once your consciousness moves beyond it, the physical will eventually catch up. So it doesn't want to let go of us very easily. So it uses all sorts of tactics to hold us down, hold us in this dependency bond. And it comes through the infiltrated pillars of society that want us to be dependent on their solutions. We saw this with the pandemic. We see this with different psyops and false flags, news stories that are constantly being blasted to us and at us. Pharmaceutical industry, medical industry, indoctrination, social engineering in schools, to keep us in this dependency bond. So there's multiple divorces going on in order to stand strong in your truth, your authenticity, and to be able to show up and correct the reversals and to collapse that control matrix by not consenting, not playing into the vampirism, the siphoning, and the manipulation of your self-worth. And it shows in the zodiac with the weaponization of the zodiac. So this ascending hub is where we all stand very strong. All the grid workers, healers, and bright spirits and souls that are here. We're in relationship with creation, and it's taking us somewhere beautiful, and we know that. It's stable. It's like that partner that you're in it through thick and thin. You feel that you're able to be sovereign, and so are they, and you're together. And that's our relationship with creation. That's our relationship with our true divine blueprint, the Christos Sophia. Instead of this Anunnaki, Saturn moon matrix, imbalance of the masculine and feminine within our being that takes us down into this descending hub. So, during the Atlantean cataclysms, about 26 to 30,000 years ago, this is when the planetary stargates, the planetary grids, and ley lines became controlled by the negative alien agenda races, such as the reptilians, the Anunnaki, the Nephilim, the Alpha Draconis Orion group, Zetas, Greys, and some Nordics. So, because we don't learn about this kind of stuff in school, it's hard for people to wrap their head around this stuff. It's not like second period galactic history. They're like helping us overcome all of this. Like your guidance counselor seeing, oh, your implants, or you've got some entity, Orion Gray, looming over you. This is really up to us to begin to really look at. Or you're not going to be recognized for your starseed mission. It's this consent, comply, shut up and listen, and if you don't, here's the drugs that will put you on so that you become dependent on this outer reward system that will give you rewards if you go along with the game, and punish you or ostracize you if you don't, or label you, or tell your parents that you're crazy, or however it all goes. So, mass biological and mind control devices exist well beyond the technology of implanting tiny physical chips into humans, which accompanied many of the abductions by the Greys and non-benevolent Zetas, and also are an impending application of such electronic devices by the one world government to the population. Even brain signatures radiated by government HARP and Gwen towers are relatively superficial compared with ancient existing global grid systems, which can be used for manipulating the evolution of all life on the planet, including the planet's evolution itself. So that's Noel Huntley, Global Grid Systems, Mass Mind Control. So the one world government agenda has its hooks way in our ancient history in order to steer us down this trajectory of this last 26,000 year cycle, so that this stellar activation cycle would be pushed into this trajectory of New World Order, which they are trying to do. And they know that they've lost already. They have outposts going into the future. They've used looking glass technologies to look into the future. And after 2012, they couldn't see anything. So in their panic, they're trying to just manipulate or distract us away. But they know that there's not a whole lot that they can do. But using time travel and different kinds of technologies, they just keep trying. They keep trying to trip us up, making things more difficult. And the thing is, they are always shocked to see that we just get stronger in the face of it. Yeah, that's right. It's like, bring it. Yeah. It's like, because they keep shooting themselves in the foot. It's like the bad partner. It's that ex that just keeps trying to call you and win your heart back, and you just hang up, you pull the cord out of the phone, you're not talking to it anymore, you're not consenting, you're done. So the more you try, the worse it's going to get, the more sovereign you're going to be, until it just backs off, leaves you alone. And this is why community is so important, because some of them are just as bad as like a stalker, or just, the harassment, the psychotronic weapons, all sorts of tactics being used to try and derail you, unground you, impact your nervous system, and we see it through social media, censorship, and all sorts of tactics. So here's another, here's the name of one of the reversal grid technologies, the Nephilim reversal grid. And it's a massively complicated alien structure that has interfered with true spiritual marriage, or Hieros Gamos, as a possibility for human beings on the planet. The Niberian dyadic crystal grid is another negative ET technology controlled network. This affects the grids and have been placed in sacred sites such as Stonehenge. So that's some ES material. And so many people here do massive grid work with the ley lines of the Michael Mary lines, and have played a huge role in reversing this, collapsing it, and bringing the energy back into its proper flow. And you do that just through your tone, through your frequency, through your heart, through your intent, and through recognizing where something comes up in your body from the grids itself that you might notice you release an emotion or words, or it just moves through people. So here's another one after the Atlantis cataclysms that Keylontic science talks about. So the Grail quest began long before angelic humans were seated on Earth, and it has been the primary theme of motivation behind all of the forbidden and recorded distorted human history. During the 25,500 BC Lucifer rebellion, Anunnaki Luciferians gained partial control over Earth's Templar. So just more emphasis on that original slide about the global grid system. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's still in operational today, and it serves a key role in the potential outcome of the 2000 to 2017 stellar activation cycle. And it's not that it ends in 2017. It's just, it extends and it keeps on going. But this was a very particular peaking point. 2012, as we know, but 2010 especially, when the sun started to move through the 13th sign of Fiacus, which was evidence that the 13 tone had landed. As much to their dismay, it landed. Even though this whole system, all this dark technology was designed to keep that tone out, because they knew once that landed, it was over for them. So if they could keep that out, because they knew the prophecies that tone would return, that mother would return and reclaim her body, that Sophionic Achamoth that had morphed into the physical planet but got thrown into dark mother reversals, mothers of darkness, satanic ritual abuse, all these things to keep those reversals alive would be corrected by the mother ark landing on the planet. So doing everything they possibly could in light of that have to do with these technologies. The mind control, the social engineering, and the MK Ultra projects, the SSP, you name it. They spend billions of dollars every year just to mess with us. So that's a twisted compliment. Yeah. and I know they're panicking, and I've talked to remote viewers and other people, and I'm sure you all can feel it. They're just like, whoa. So here's some of the Atlantis Lemuria pylon implant networks that have been overlaid on the physical planet. That's the Nibiru electrostatic transduction field, basically the net that was put over the planet. And so you see all these energies that you can actually see. I'm not sure about really from space, but these are the green beneficial and the red harmful grids. And the green-red indicates hijack grids. So when you think about the dragon energy, which I'm going to talk about a little bit, 13 dragon beings, the dragon ley lines, the dragon energies have been held in stasis, waiting for us to stir them. And I know Lisa Raven is going to be doing a workshop tomorrow about the dragon code activation, so that's really wonderful. And so they move with us. They are such a part of us. And this is what really corrects these reversals and begins to collapse the control matrix. Every time you refuse consent and you recognize that you've divorced, you've let go, you're no longer allowing this control system to plug into you, or you've held your ground since the beginning or for many lifetimes, you collapse that control grid and you change that energy everywhere you walk and everywhere you go. So right now, the nodal shift has moved into Pisces Virgo, and the nodes get activated by the eclipses. The nodes are very powerful. We all have the south node and north node in our birth charts. So if you guys know your charts, you'll probably know what your south node and north node is. It's always interesting to find out because the south node is the energy signature you came in with, and the north node is what you're stepping into to integrate. And it's not like you're integrating it like you've never experienced it before, but you're stepping into it in order to complete the polarity integration, to walk into it and then to return to the south node. And the symbology is the Ouroboros, the serpent biting his tail. And when you complete that integration of polarity, then you've pretty much de-weaponized the zodiac, which wants us to be in duality, wants us to be in the lower spectrum of frequency, the stunted growth of unintegrated shadow, amnesia, unconsciousness, and literally whatever the social engineering is trying to put into you. Because the psyops and false flags are in alignment with the planetary energies. So 2019 with the pandemic, Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto were all in conjunction. This was a powerful growth period for humanity. So usually when we're about to take a leap, that's when there's some kind of big psyops or false flag. Similar to a partner, when you're having a great time, you think your relationship's going really well, you plan this great date, and he's just, you're in tears at the end, and you're like, why? And you're either like trying to win their heart back, or you're like, you know what? F you, I'm done. So I think a lot of us were thinking that around 2019. That was a big breaking point for a lot of people. And a lot of people that were already awake but just needed that catalyst to really see more deeply. And some that went along with it out of fear. And that's okay, because the minute you wake up, you change it. You don't get too far that you can't turn back around. And that's what the 13th tone and the mother energy shows us, because of her unconditional love, the fact that she's the ether element. And that ether element is everything to alchemize and de-weaponize pretty much every assault, every bioweapon that has ever gotten into our system. So it doesn't matter how far down that road we get. There's no real doom and gloom. And I firmly believe that. So anyway, the nodal shift into Pisces Virgo is all about body, mind, spirit integration. Virgo, the south node, is what we're reflecting on. Virgo is ruled by the earth. It's an earth sign. It's ruled by Mercury. So it has to do with our physiology, our physical lifestyle, our habits, our routine, our kind of everyday. What are we putting into our bodies? What is our mind saying to our bodies? It's all about the epigenetics, the mind communication with the body. Is it speaking programmings to the body? Because if it is, that's usually when we face disease or imbalance. But when we change the dialogue, that's when massive healing happens. So that's such a huge part of healing, which so many people working with sound and tone and music that's coded with light and frequency, high frequency, begins to create these corrections. So the programmings and the Virgo, the Mercury, the magician, that is allowing this other dialogue in, usually alerts the body. And we're stepping into the Pisces North Node, so that's ruled by Neptune. Are we running into archons, entities, siphoning and harvesting of the creative imagination, which Pisces Neptune represents because it rules the creative imagination and the multidimensional? Or are we moving beyond all of that, lifting the veil and moving into the higher dimensions where the creative imagination, our visions and dreams, and our connection to the higher angelic realms, the cosmic trinity, source, guardians, whatever it is that you feel most affinity to, are you able to communicate with that, bring it into that Virgo, have that dialogue, be in direct connection with your higher self and all that it can access to begin to upgrade the physical vessel? So this is where we're at. This is the challenge of our human experience right now, is to have that integration with the creative imagination, the spiritual, the mystical, and the galactic. We are the most advanced technology here to override the dark technology that bombards us daily. So let's look at the deeper origins and weigh these current times against it, or see how it might line up. So here's a quick quote. Well, not that quick, but I can make it quick. But from Lisa Renee. The Sumerian Egypt invasion is the reference point in our current historical record where human DNA was unplugged on the earth. When our DNA was unplugged, all galactic war memories, along with our true historical origins, were erased from our conscious mind memories by the negative alien agenda invading races. Basically, they just unplugged from source. They compromised their DNA on purpose. They got so far away from source that they use us to vampire off of. Okay, so human DNA and vibratory digression began a system from primarily 208,000 years ago as a result of the Iranian Wars. When the Sumerian Egypt invasion began, this event unplugged human DNA and scrambled the fire letters in the geometric codes in the planetary morphogenetic fields, which blocked higher sensory perception and thus blocked multidimensional perception of other timelines and extra-dimensional races. So we know that we have been pushing through that. We have dissolved that net. We've dissolved those scrambling codes. And when our consciousness can reach into what has been scrambled, what we're reaching into is sacred union, alchemical marriage, hieros gamos, because the higher strands of our DNA are actually all about that greater love story. That's why I compare it to a divorce, because the scrambling is like literally being with somebody that treats you less than you actually are. You're allowing yourself to believe that you're less than you actually are. You're not having an authentic, beautiful love story with creation, with other people, until you break through and you just remember. Remembrance is everything. So they leverage our amnesia. That's why they throw us into these schools at such a young age. They give us a lot of candy, a lot of sugar, and a lot of TV, and we know, I don't have to get into that, just how it all begins. And it's specific to just making it hard as we grow up. So what are some other mechanisms as far as the technology? Well, there's the black cube matrix. It's at the core of the planet Saturn, according to certain sources, and makes sense in what I have learned in astrology and studying galactic history. It siphons life force from living systems and beings and routes it back into its black hole system. This is the time loop. Dark technologies placed in the earth grids, implants, and other methods are how this is successful. 5D false ascension programs are transmitted through this Saturn black cube, as well as things to trigger events and trigger us. The Saturn moon matrix is basically the patriarchal programming, impacting both men and women, where tyranny rules and we're cut off from our own innate divine power. And so we're relating through the filter of distortions and social engineered expressions. So the rings represent a synthetic, artificial kind of frequency band that impacts the moon and transmits sort of the simulation. So when people are like, oh, it's all simulation. Well, not all. There is this overlay that has been placed on the planetary grids, just like how implants can impact our nervous system. And it's not just implants. It's just the programming. It's the way that these planetary systems have been manipulated. But the only thing that really keeps them manipulated is not the planets. The planets have nothing really to do with it. It's the social engineering and the programmings that attach to these planetary energies that are the problem. Because the higher octave of Saturn is self-mastery and being a teacher. The lower octave is tyranny, control, contracts, submission, giving your power away, having some authority over you. So there's different stages in how we collapse that dark weaponry. The lunar matrix is another alien structure that transmits mind control programs into the Earth's magnetic field and perpetuates spiritually abusive belief systems into the subconscious layers of the masses. This originates from non-humans and is alien-based technology used to enforce the main goals of the archonic deception strategy. So those last two slides are just a bunch of research from the things I sourced in the beginning, like energetic synthesis and downloads I've been getting and books that I've come across, and I've just sort of compiled this. So these aliens, though, this is what happens when you used to be like human and you've been bioengineered to lose your reproductive capacities, to lose your soul matrix. And that's why there's some abductions where Greys are trying to get genetic material back. There's about 11 different types of species. So it's not all this way, but you know, it's kind of like, well, how did they get to be like that? And I actually had a slide for that, but it's not in this. But this is basically either a bioengineered humanoid, or what we see now with my labs, they're actually able to make what looks like an alien to stage an abduction when it's really the military that's doing it. They learned how to do that in the late 50s. Because abduction scenarios were happening, they began to wipe out that being a potential. And it goes back to the 30s and trading humans where the deal started. And then the Greys were taking more than they had said that they would take. So the deep state actually wanted to take them out because they wanted to sell us off to other species as well. So there's a lot more to it than some of the rumors that you see, but I'm not going to get into all that because there's different types of species. And Eisenhower was aware of this. He's been blamed for signing a Great treaty when it was MJ-12. So if you guys follow my Instagram, or no, Instagram's too small for some of these texts. If you follow my Substack or my Twitter, yeah, I've been posting a lot about this kind of stuff. So that's a good place if you want to find out more about the chronology of all this, from what I found out from certain whistleblowers and researchers, and working with the Akashic and remote viewing. So that's just too long of a story for right now. And I'm sure some here know a bit about this. But going back to Saturn, Moon, and black cube systems. So the Anunnaki also utilized planetary bodies as hardware for controlling consciousness. Saturn transformed into a time prison, the false god throne, Lord of Karma overlay. Moon, a signal repeater, broadcasting distorted feminine cycles, false memories, and emotional harvesting. Black cube, found in many religions and Saturnian systems, used to anchor AI reality fields. These are not natural planetary functions. They were imposed through Anunnaki and AI engineered architecture to hijack the organic solar logo system. So instead of a tool for self-liberation, astrology became a soul control system, falsely defining identity, fate, and limitation. So again, we collapse all of this when we're overriding it because we're connecting to the higher octaves of the planetary energies. So, and the fact that more and more people are awakening and overriding all of this, after thousands and thousands of years of working real hard on these technologies and manipulating the planetary systems and alignments themselves, they're not too pleased that they're going down. So Saturn, the threshold between the old world and the awakening one. So the lower expression, if we get caught in that, dominator, controller, matrix, and dark agendas. On a human level, we experience Saturn with limitations, rules, and responsibilities, which are not a bad thing. We all have that. We need the law of structure. We want to be responsible to the things that matter as guardians, as stewards, as parents, as partners. So Saturn is not a big deal, except for when it's imposed on you and it's repressing you, suppressing you, controlling you, manipulating you with a false authority, which is the dominator controller. So when we spot that in a programming, in society, in any kind of psyop or a false flag or any sort of control agenda telling us what to do, how to respond to certain things when they happen, the mandates or this overemphasis on all that took place, especially during 2019, 2020, they've been wanting to roll out the next level of it all, right? So the higher octave, though, is teacher master. So teacher master is how to overcome control agendas and find self-mastery. So when you're in that place, you know what to consent to, you make the rules for yourself, and what to discard, and you're in charge of that law of structure. And when you're in charge of that law of structure, which rules the skeletal bones, the skeleton bones, that's how the teeth, the skull, fingernails and hair. The reason Saturn is so frustrating is because it moves as slow as hair growing and grass growing. You feel like nothing's happening, right? You can make a commitment to something, and or you're holding your intention, and sometimes it just takes a while for it to manifest. Sometimes it doesn't take long at all. But when it's Saturn, and the reason it takes a while is because it wants to build a root system. It stands the test of time. Saturn can be very, very powerful as a law of structure. So now that Saturn's being de-weaponized, Saturn of the new Earth energies, which is really ancient Earth coming back, advanced civilizations, is that Saturn is losing its rings, which astronomers have noted, that the rings are dissolving. And we're flipping it around. Uranus and Saturn and some of the aspects being made brings that crystalline, that Uranus energy, that authenticity into the law of structure to be integrated. The multidimensional with Saturn and Neptune conjunct in Aries right now, which is divine human. The law of structure working with the multidimensional, and it's the restoration of the tree of life. So it shows in the planetary aspects that we are in this window of ascension. And the only thing that's going to trick us out of that is how these dark technologies link to the social engineering agendas, the psyops, the false flags, all the different targetings and all the different attempts to keep us either reactive, ungrounded, in fear and victimhood, or completely unconscious and just being a conduit for those programmings and infecting as many as we can, not realizing what we're doing. And of course, we're not doing that. So, but if we have our moments, we snap out of it pretty quick. You can tell and feel something's way off. And you might feel like for a moment, yeah, you're just clearing an ancestral pattern or something's coming through that you might have learned, it might have been conditioned into you, but being conscious and mindful means when it comes up, you transmute it. And we have to walk through inversion. That's what the whole point of the underworlds are. We walk through the inversions in order to bring correction, because all of the reversal grids of the Dark Mother require that, because they're curses, they're reversal grids, right? And in order to correct it, we have to really go into that dark to reclaim that womb that has turned into hell. So another Saturn thing, the distortion of time. Linear time imposed to trap souls in karmic loops and erode memory. Timeline overlays that blocked planetary ascension. These are now collapsing through ley line correction and memory reweaving. So the zodiac template. The original zodiacal template was a living soul encoded cosmic memory wheel, a divine calendar of embodiment, evolution, and return. Hijacked stellar mythologies and overlaid distorted archetypes. Warlike Mars instead of divine identity. Or spirit warrior. Punitive, punishing Saturn created soul contracts tied to distorted zodiac traits, locking beings into karmic loops. So when I read charts, being aware of this, you can begin to see, okay, where is that showing up? Have you been able to overcome maybe a Saturn square? And there's a lot of those in all of our charts. The original design, aeons, tones, and the divine spiral. From Ein Sof Or, the infinite light of source, emerged the aeons, Sophia and Christos as balanced source emanations. The primordial womb is the first emanation, the container through which light could descend and take form. It was Sophia as the first wombed aeon who carried this function. She was the cradle of tones, the matrix of matter, and the field of becoming. So the guardians arise as protective stewards of these tones and divine blueprints, crystalline presences of memory, law, and alignment. Their sacred union birthed 12 tones, not archetypes, but harmonic laws. These tones held unified masculine, feminine essence, living codes of divine function. Earth Tara was chosen, that was 5D, 4, 5, and 6 dimensions. Earth Tara was chosen as the Grail planet to host these tones in embodied creation. The plan, Sophia would midwife the tones through matter, Christos would anchor the solar shield. These were not signs yet. They were laws of love in spiral motion. Because of the Luciferian rebellions, because of the fracture that was happening, the Sophionic energy ended up becoming a part of creation, ended up getting lost in all the distortion, and came without the Christos, which made matters worse. Tiamat exploded. There was major revolt because of this intervention that was coming from love, but it was not in balance, and it ended up getting a bit out of control. So that's why the 13th tone, the remedial tone, had to come in order to restore the architecture. And that's being restored, through all of us, being awakened and bringing that energy in. And the thing is, before it even landed, people were holding that. So you might have noticed that it was really hard to be grounded. You were holding something that the system was rejecting. You might have had to go somewhere to feel into it, be able to ground, get away from everything, until this tone landed. You might have felt the relief, like, oh, I feel better. So I think a lot of us might be able to relate to that. And some, lived in certain locations where it might have been easier to carry it, but a lot of flame carriers have held this for lifetimes, knowing that it would eventually land on the planet and begin to break down the control matrix. So the original zodiac was not just astrological, it was sonic, geometric, and planetary. The zodiac was once a living radial map, encoded with 12 primal tones, emanations of the divine aeonic mind through source. These were not just stars or constellations. They were frequency gates that anchored into Earth's body, corresponding with specific stargates, chakra points, and DNA strands. Each zodiacal tone corresponds to a flame of consciousness, a strand of DNA, a planetary node or stargate, a sound geometry key that harmonized with the Earth's crystalline grid. And so this Anunnaki. Not all factions are negative, so I never like to just make that sound that way. But that's when all the distortion began to happen, the Sumerian Egypt invasion, and where there was manipulation to our DNA. So when we look at the first root races, Polaris, Hyperborea, Lemuria, Atlantis, and then things started to get kind of weird. And when you look at the Lemurian Holocaust, the Atlantean Cataclysm, and how Maldek exploded during that time, and the Anunnaki and the covert Illuminati and 13 families, which hijacked the 13th tone to be the Dark Mother reversal and keep the reversals alive with satanic ritual abuse and all sorts of tactics and the dark technology. That was to replace the 12 flames and the 12 original tones and that 13th tone with the Dark Mother reversal to keep that energy out and to keep this repair work from happening. And it's happening. So, yeah, I want to see their, yeah, no, I actually don't, but just, you know, can you just imagine? Oh, they're pissed. So, yeah. So, but so many have been blackmailed and so many have just been trauma-based mind control generation to generation, and they really want our love to help them come home. And I know that so many victims coming forward, so many that are able to come clean or admit they've been blackmailed or compromised. Yeah, it's so important. So these stargates formed a living zodiacal interface, a harmonic body of the Earth. After the Orion Wars and our descent into the lower harmonic universe, these gates were inverted or sealed. Grid workers and flame bearers now labor to reactivate and purify these gates for the planetary restoration. The 13th flame is the living key that can unlock these gates without collapse. And we know that Magdalene's associated with the 13th apostle. So, and that we know her story has been very twisted or not fully told. And how religion has sort of distorted some of those things. But there's a lot of good in there, but it's just, there's more to the story, as we know. So how it got distorted, the Zodiac. The Anunnaki Draco AI alliances hijacked the Zodiac by turning it into a linear karmic loop rather than a spiral of remembrance, imprinting false archetypes that lock souls into predictable roles: martyr, victim, warrior, seductress. Now, warrior's fine, but the negative ego kind of anger, sort of warlike warrior is more what this means. Embedding Metatronic reversal codes into certain signs, especially Pisces, Gemini, and Scorpio. The Piscean in its shadow is self-undoing addiction, feeling just lost in illusion instead of really anchoring the dream and vision. The Gemini, being ruled by Mercury, the mind control, the communication, the spreading of mind viruses, and just having that Mercury. And then Scorpio, the Kundalini, dragon energy, alchemy. We all know what a dark Scorpio is like. I'm sure we've experienced that. Disconnecting it from the original Grail flame essence, the Zodiac went from being a cosmic instrument of soul remembrance to a clock of fate and spiritual containment. So, I mean, I think all the signs, I mean, so notes on the method of hijack. Each flame was mirrored into a polarity trap, light versus dark archetypes. Emotional energy was harvested through trauma clusters linked to each sign. Reincarnation and karmic binding were reinforced by false astrological contracts. Divine identity was replaced with external fate roles. So that's, you know, and one has to be very careful. And I'm not saying but when you get a reading and somebody is saying this is your future, when you limit yourself to the future of what you're seeing in the news or a certain trajectory that is bound to a belief system that becomes fixed or stuck, that's all that really means. But if you look at the 12 houses, we know that every single house which represents a zodiac sign has been infiltrated to some degree, because the pillars of society that are feeding us information on all different types of levels have imprinted some sort of reversal in each of these houses. So self-appearances, beginnings, first impression, and your attitude. Well, If you look at the compartmentalized ego, if you look at the gender confusion right now, they knew that we'd be awakening our divine blueprint of the Christ Sophia, integration of polarity, but they want kids to be confused. That if you're feminine as a male or masculine as a female, that you're confused, when in actual fact, you're just integrated. You have access to both. And you can just enjoy that and not be a programmed version or hold any projection or judgment on that and just be yourself and love being you. And they make that very difficult. They act like they're in support of it, but in actual fact, they're taking children's minds, removing it from the parents even having any say, to begin to throw them into a very distorted version of themselves when actually everything is right within that being for finding freedom of expression within that body. They're reacting to the last generation of the Barbie Ken sort of programs. So, but that's how they catch the next cycle and begin to weaponize it. So money, values, work environment, daily routines. So where we overly emphasize with how much money we have in the bank account? Uranus and Taurus that just moved into Gemini was really a breaking down of that, realizing abundance doesn't count on that. We can manifest. But the punishment reward system of society is where that gets captured. That your value and your worth is dependent on that paycheck and your status or position on a career level, instead of divine mission or realizing your purpose within all of that. So we don't have to run from all of it, but we can collapse it from within, and that's why some people stay in certain careers, because they might feel they have a strong purpose to anchor something in those, particular careers or locations. So connections, sibling, friends, neighbors, community. I mean, that's just always been sort of weird. Not necessarily, but if you look at just a sense of community, it's very fragmented, and home, roots, family, lots of ancestral patterns, a lot of wounding that just gets passed on, a lot of targeting of the family unit, romance, play, self-expression, creativity. That might be like the most fun part that doesn't get that messed with, but the shadow side of Leo can be, very, I don't know, there's personality traits and shadow sides to all these particular signs. I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but that's the fifth house tends to be like, where play, self-expression, creativity, but even that can be limited when when we look at Hollywood or the entertainment industry and how it's been hijacked, how there's all sorts of contracts or manipulation, or to be successful, people feel they need to sell out. And anyway, but most of this doesn't apply to us, but it's just wild to see just how the pillars of society pretty much have inverted or compromised every single health, fitness, organization, access, service. I mean, we've been dealing as a society, as a humanity, with a lot of health crisis, mental health, and that's that Mercury, the way the mind talks to the body. If it's speaking programmings, it's just the body revolts and it's confused. There's no true guidance except at events like this. And this is going to take over. Even though we might feel like the numbers are small, it literally is going to take over this planet. Yep. People are going to begin to realize what is it that they're doing. They're going to long for this level of guidance and healing and recognition and love. Relationships, it's said enough about all that. Intimacy, all that. Higher learning, travel, study, religion, and some, belief systems that can prevent the open mind. But that's easy to break through a little bit more. Career, friends, social causes, a lot of the funded Soros movements is an example. Endings, healing, closure, that's the 12th house Pisces. So that's self-undoing, addiction, feeling, when you're, I kind of spell it out here. So you can see the distorted archetype and the method of control. So Aries, war archetype, aggressive ego, impulsive self-interest. Method of control, weaponized divine will into militarism, toxic independence, martyr, warrior complex. I'm not going to read all of them, but materialist, possessive, survivalist, trapped, sacred embodiment, and consumerism, hoarding, and disconnection from nature. When really, the 12th or the house of Taurus, Venus, is all about connection with nature. So you can see how, Leo, narcissist, false king, queen, attention seeker, hijack divine radiance into external validation, solar ego worship, Virgo, overcritical perfectionist, cold analyst, reversed crystalline purity into self-denial, shame, body disconnection. Because the integration of Pisces and Virgo is what activates that crystalline purity and that restoration of the tree of life, because it happens within our own being. When we begin to heal and move through all the different levels and move out of that tree of knowledge of duality, good versus evil, we begin to restore the 12-tree template, which is the nodal axis that we're on right now as a growth period for humanity. So a lot of the activations are to bring us out of that carbon base into the crystalline, but the programmings and the weaponization is to keep us sick, dependent, confused, and so Libra, people pleaser, superficial harmony, indecision. Hijack, sacred union into external codependency, erase sovereignty. Scorpio, seductress, betrayer, shadow dweller. Weaponized alchemy into sexual trauma, black magic, abuse cycles. Sagittarius, false guru, fanatic, escapist. Flipped, sacred, truth into dogma, cults, spiritual bypass, blind optimism. Capricorn, tyrant, rigid, patriarch, authority worship. Reverse, divine structure into control grids, corporate systems, Saturnian law. Aquarius, cold, idealist, AI futurist, hive mind. Hijacked higher mind into transhumanism, false unity, rebellion without heart. Pisces, martyr, addict, lost dreamer. Oops. Implanted sacrificial, savior code, religious programming, loops of delusion, and escapism. So I'm sure some of those shadow qualities are familiar with some. I'm certainly, as a Libra, I'm like, I can see some of that. So what's the true essence? You can just see that. And Aries, divine will, courage. Taurus, sacred embodiment, beauty. Gemini, union of polarity, higher mind. Cancer, ancestral heart memory. Leo, sovereign radiance. Virgo, sacred vessel, DNA purity. Libra, balance, divine justice. Scorpio, sacred eye. And these are just a few just terms. I mean, there's so much more to it. I just wanted to capture the essence versus the inversion. And I won't read all that because I pretty much just did. So that's pretty much the weaponization. And when we're in the weaponized version, the inversion, the unhealed or integrated shadow, it messes with our physical bodies. So every single sign connects with an organ, a gland, our endocrine system. So every single sign, if you're dealing with any of these health issues, there might be something unconscious, because when the body is carrying it, it means that the mind or the consciousness of the soul was not able to catch up with what they might have inherited, what they might have picked up, what might have gotten into their system, or what, and their body's just is showing us through pain and disease how to awaken and how to get to know ourselves better. But the medical industry wants the opposite. Give your power to me. We're going to put you on these drugs. This is your trajectory. This is what to expect, which is a form of mind control. And most doctors aren't doing that. They're good. I think a lot of us have had our lives saved and had incredible experiences. So this isn't a one-size-fits-all at all. And I'm sure a lot of you have worked with somebody that helped emergency situations or helped to locate something going on in your body and may have helped you to get out of it enough to take a breath. And then it's up to us to take it the rest of the way and figure out, where is that rooted in? Where did that come from? Is there an ancestral pattern that has gone unnoticed? Has this been passed down? Because if it's been passed down, it's not genetic damage. It's a belief system. It's an inversion of whatever imprint was there that never got resolved. So then it's just showing up in the nucleic acids of DNA as damage to that elemental that's toxic or inverted, that just simply needs our awareness in order to correct it. And then we begin to heal our bodies. So kidneys, adrenals, lumbar region, Libra. So if you're people pleasing too much or taking on other people's stress because you care so much about everybody, yeah, it's going to start to affect these parts of your body. Scorpio, more the reproductive organs. If you're alchemizing everything on behalf of those who aren't, if you're taking on too much, because it's the womb energy as well, you can have issues there. Or if you're in the shadow side of any kind of behavioral patternings with certain things, the body catches up with it and it's simply saying, listen to me. I hold the keys to your awakening. I hold the keys to your health. This is why it hurts. This is why it doesn't feel so great. And it's giving us exactly what we need to be on the healing trajectory. So when we're hearing the opposite and somebody in that industry is trying to keep us dependent, we see those aspects of the shadow side of certain things in the medical industry that only some, not all, have bought into. But most in the field are absolutely like caring and the most profound light workers to be caregivers in the way that they are, and to be, you know, in the realm of medicine. It's just in this time of awakening, we're realizing, whoa, okay, there's so much more to this picture now. To really merge the holistic with the medical and turn all these pillars of society and where they might have been compromised, infiltrated, or limited into something so much more complete and whole, and assisting us in our remembrance of ourselves. So the outer planets are the most powerful because they're initiatory. So Uranus and Taurus, that just moved into Gemini, is the planet of shock and upheaval, and it's all about awakening. But in its shadow, if we're resisting the downloads or the activation, and we're just like, can't have it, or we've dealt with the trauma in our nervous system because it rules the nervous system, is stuck in that memory, we can just be constantly looping in panic attacks, PTSD, nervous breakdowns. We lose connection to higher guidance. And then when we realize, like, whoa, something's awakening and stirring in me, and you notice that other people don't like it because you're activating them and they're afraid of that because they want to hold on to the program, that's Uranus. And it's like the wrecking ball. It's like the Tower card in the Tarot. So we want to allow that energy to come in, but it breaks down the control system around us, and sometimes it's hard to integrate because it's not the most welcoming energy, especially if you have a lot of Uranus, especially when you're a child, right? It's the I can't sit still planet or listen. And it's not ADD, it's attention on different dimensions, and it's because you're getting downloads from your higher self, but instead you're being projected upon and told that, and that's when you might end up with panic attacks and PTSD because nobody's taking you seriously and you can't just be yourself. So you either drop out, run away, just kidding, or channel it into something, right? So it's helpful to know our children's charts for that reason, if they're, you know, because there might be something that they can't even help that they came in with that is a bleed over from a previous lifetime. So Neptune, which is in Pisces, consciousness, freedom, creative imagination. Saturn and Neptune have moved into Aries. The shadow is fear virus, mind virus, disinfo, confusion, all designed to infect our creative channels so that we're literally enabling a trajectory in a future we don't want because we're believing in something outside of ourselves, and it's infecting our creative imagination, and it's streaming through our creative channels, and we're literally giving life to it. Because the cabal and the deep state and all the reversal energy and everything about the deep state, they can't create on their own. They need us to do it for them. So the power of suggestion is all that they can do, is to just nudge us in that direction to believe in it and then do it for them. And then they're kind of more clear of the ramifications because we didn't have to listen, but we did. But the thing is, we're born into it. It surrounds us. And people get in trouble if they don't. And that's all breaking down, fortunately. So Pluto in Capricorn, that's just moved into Aquarius, is all about transformation. Its shadow is suicidal thoughts, heavy energy, darkness. You feel stuck in the birth canal, and maybe you don't even want to get out of the birth canal. You're not wanting to get out of the cocoon. It's that emergence into a butterfly. Maybe you forget that that's on the other side of this underworld or this passage in this process when it's really, you know, alchemical. It's all about releasing what doesn't serve us, all about transmutation. So what happens if we resist these energies? Our immune system is lowered. We get hijacked, our energies get siphoned, we feel hopeless, lost, and confused, because that's the real weapon. It's not the bioweapon. It's not the stuff that we've been breathing in. Yes, that doesn't help, but that's just to make it harder to correct the inversions, because it creates an antenna, the nanoparticles, to these technologies. So it just keeps us in that loop. It strengthens the connection with the control matrix and artificial technologies. But again, it has no power over us. These are low-level technologies that we can override and collapse, alchemize, and remove. And we're breaking down this dark weaponry all the time when we resist any form of control and suggestion that would bind our creative channels into enabling it or helping to manifest it. So Neptune, when we experience it in the lower astral and it's infected by frequency distortions and false belief systems, it gets harvested and siphoned, which is the name of the game. And recent Guardian projects, this is from ES Material, Lisa Renee. Recent Guardian projects have extended into the astral plane level of reality of the soul matrix timelines, in which exploration of extensive artificial architecture was located and found to be used to harvest loosh and enslave humanity on the soul planes through assorted ideological systems being reinforced through organizations. These make up extensive organizational structures like corporations, churches, hospitals, medical institutes, internet technology, pharmaceutical companies, and many other systems that are used with the negative purpose to control the human collective consciousness via perceptions of reality from the astral and 3D matter planes. Neptune's multidimensional. That's just the lower levels, what one might call 4D. But 4D is a mixed bag, right? Once you lift the veil and you move into 5D and beyond, then you've accessed that alchemical law of creation, and you remove that veil and you begin to bring that into these structures. And you can inspire these structures. You can open the mind of these structures. And where that's not possible, you can always move on. I mean, my father's a priest, and he's in a church, and he's changing the way the church is in a lot of ways, especially having daughters, which is rare. So, but I mean, he'll talk about things that, that are a little bit out of the box. But it's taken a little bit to help him open up the box, but he's got a big heart. But I just got to say real quick, he was in the hospital with 2 weeks left to live. He had gotten 9 boosters. He was almost getting his 10th. And leukemia, double pneumonia. He had 2 weeks left to live. He was put in hospice. And me and my sister worked his energy, gave him really good nutrition. And he's back home, and he's going to concerts, and he's driving, and he's doing the best that he can. Yeah, and the doctors are stunned. And they wanted him to get his 10th booster. He said, "I'm listening to my daughters, not my doctors now." So, but again, these aren't your typical doctors, right? Because we got, doctors here that are like the real deal. Those that are just answering to a control matrix, are doing the best they can. They've been told that this is the right thing to do. So, but the fact that he listened has changed everything. The priests are all just like, whoa, and we didn't do it. He did it because he felt the safety, he felt the love, he felt the permission to just know that he doesn't have to be dependent. He doesn't have to just listen to somebody outside of himself. So we were just a bridge to him being able to really listen to himself. And that's where the healing happened. So as the planetary body activates into higher harmonic stations, the negative alien agenda attempt to counter and block access to these higher frequencies through artificial technologies, holographic inserts, directing assorted electromagnetic assaults on Earth. I mean, I think I've said enough about the dark technologies, but that's a little bit more from Lisa Renee. Social engineering, psychological operations, false movements and organizations, which I've said enough. Heather Carlini from the Carlini Institute for Therapy, Research, and Transpersonal Education explains how photonic energy works. The bright light seen at the time of a solar flare works with us. So lower emotions are low frequency energy stored in our cells from past experiences and traumas that we have encountered and never processed. Photon energy is a much higher frequency energy that pulls up the lower emotional frequency so it can calibrate to the higher frequency. Thus we find ourselves releasing emotions such as sadness and grief without knowing why. The elements of our blueprint are interfaced in the cellular consciousness. And when the blueprint is amplified through photon energies, various elements of the blueprint leak into your consciousness, and we begin to remember our soul's purpose. So a lot of the solar activity happening, the coronal mass ejections, and this is like literally doing the alchemy. And if we suppress it, because enough with thinking something's wrong with us if we're crying all the time or if we're moving anger and fire. I mean, it's all very important. And we're bound to drop down, power versus force, David Hawkins. We might drop down into that maybe a few times a day. But at least at least we're not psychopaths, right? But if we drop all the way down, we just want to get back up. And that's where the alchemy is. We might feel into something. I'd rather feel a little bit of guilt, shame, remorse than not feel at all. But if I notice I'm dropping down there, it's like we welcome ourselves back up through unconditional love, through forgiveness, through understanding, and knowing how much has been stacked against us and how much they want to trap us in these lower energies. But then obviously the energy and frequency gets higher as you move up into that. And we can maintain it as best as we can. But if we don't, that's okay. We just drop down and get back up. So there's more chakras than just the 7 and 15-dimensional time matrix. So people are already connecting. Even if you just work with the 7 chakras, we're already connecting with those higher chakras. and inviting them in to the seven chakras connecting to the logos and the seven gateways will receive from those higher chakras that transmutational energy. Epigenetics. Science is proving that our body's ability to heal and repair itself is greatly affected by our beliefs, thoughts, emotions, and intentions, for they have a profound vibrational effect upon our continually evolving genetic code. We're the programmers of the code. DNA activation is our software upgrade. So again, that Mercury, Virgo, when we don't like the dialogue happening in our head, or we don't like the dialogue or the information that is coming at us and bombarding us, we get to decide what we're going to bring in and how we're going to communicate with our own genetic code. And this is really where the repair comes in. And when we listen to it, when we listen to that damage, it's not permanently damaged, because everything in us that's dormant and asleep holds the keys to restoration. And that is the 13th tone, is a restoration remedial tone. So the role of the ley lines. Ley lines are Earth's energy meridians connecting sacred sites and power points across the globe. They carry light codes, ancestral memory, and evolutionary instruction. When distorted or hijacked, they spread trauma, war consciousness, and disconnection. When restored, they awaken DNA, heal land trauma, and reestablish sovereign communion with Source. So I'm in a whole room of like grid workers, whether you're consciously doing it or not. It's just amazing, because when distorted or hijacked, which they have been, it keeps the collective in this trauma loop and in this dependency bond, in this weaponized zodiac. So conscious grid workers, or conscious authentic beings that are living their truth, are literally restoring the grids, because your nervous system, your energy meridians, and you being a replica on a DNA level of the planetary grid network, when you're out of the inversions, you're naturally clearing the land around you. So Albion and Cathar bodies. The split between the Albion and Cathar bodies was deeply embedded into the Michael Mary lines, particularly in the British Isles and southern France, where the masculine and feminine dragon lines once braided in harmony through the Earth's body. And of course, being in England is everything, and because this is the Michael Mary lines and the Albion and Cathar bodies. So I'm heading to Avebury Henge. If anybody is heading that way after this event, let me know. Yeah. Yay. So the solar Christ, I'm actually putting it in a documentary. I have a film guy coming out. So the solar Christ body was broken into parts, distorted across the grid through druidic bloodline manipulation, stone circle inversions, ley line hijacking, Arthurian distortions, false king and fallen Grail narratives, Templar betrayals, and weaponization of the Grail codes. The original 12+1 tribe template was split and pitted against itself. The true masculine protector was twisted into tyranny, war, and conquest, replacing Christic stewardship with domination-based rulership. What was once a unified solar blueprint became a fragmented power grid. Avebury Henge sits directly upon the heart node of the Albion, the body of Earth's original divine human template. This region is not just symbolic, it's one of the living central nervous system points of the planetary light body. So inversion and erasure of the Cathar body. The Cathars were systematically hunted, tortured, and erased by church power structures, especially during the Albigensian Crusade, 13th century. Funny, the number 13. But this was not just a genocide of people, it was a spiritual assassination of the Grail womb codes. The Sophionic wisdom that once flowed through the land was replaced by Marian false archetypes, virgin whore splits, male-dominated theology, suppression of direct gnosis. The ley lines, the rose lines that once carried the voice of Sophia were overwritten by Saturnian control grids running Metatronic reversal currents. So, our DNA, your DNA, is wired into the Earth grid. When you incarnate, your birth chart reflects the state of the planetary grid at the moment your soul entered. You are not separate from it. You are a walking node, a living antenna connected to this celestial terrestrial system. That's why planetary grid work is also internal healing work. You're syncing your body with the Earth's natural and true divine architecture that is still there. It's just been overlaid. And if we're conduits of that overlay and inversion, we're just eventually that energy is going to split off and bifurcate away. And it's more frequency bifurcation is what I'm kind of picturing, and that there's a bridge between the two. That it's not just like this timeline, like a highway just going off, like, and you just see a bunch of people walking down it. I don't know what visions you all have of a possible bifurcation, but when the frequency is not matching, you can see the extremes in people's behavior. They're resisting it with everything they possibly can. And it's really the anti-unification. It's really people really carrying the divide and conquer, a lot of blame, shame, victim games. And so your awakening reactivates your node in that system. As more of us awaken, the planetary grid corrects, and the artificial systems, including geoengineering, EMF grids, inverted ley lines, begin to collapse or transmute. This is why your presence matters more than protest, because you are the correction. So in a time where Chiron is very strong, which helps us to understand our mission through wounds and afflictions. It shows us what we're missing and longing for. Our pain is our purpose, I feel, because it won't leave us alone, so it's there for a reason. And when we listen to it, it gives us information about our soul mission, about what we're longing for, about what we're missing, about what we're passionate about, and it hurts. But that pain turns into purpose. It turns into passion. It turns into motivation to step into the antidote, to step into the transformation, to really bring it the unconditional love. So doing the inner work and staying aligned with our healing energies will correct inversions and disease. Right now, Chiron is in Aries. Wounded ego, wounded warrior, and the inversions in shadow is attack on human identity, vaccine damage, false movements. And again, if it's not about making the weapons something to be scared of or even labeling them weapons, because for some, it's worked for them, and their mind isn't at peace with it. So I'm not trying to weaponize something if you don't feel it's a weapon, but for some, that's how it shows up, right? Some of the movements might be the best thing for people, but is it taking you away from unity? Is it compartmentalizing you to the point where it's taking you down a road that might not be so healthy? So anyway, false movements, harming the ego through psyops and creating triggering events to disempower and hijack the soul-centered, intuitive, free-thinking, evolving human. So that's Chiron and Aries. Fear tactics are used to keep the trauma bond alive because people don't know how to heal and cut the cords. Whereas if we're working with Chiron, which has been square Mars and is going to be on and off square Pluto, that's major toxicity. It's a lot of casualties. People that the square means conflict and challenge might not let that catalyst awaken them. It might cause them to get more and more entangled, which is a really heavy Chiron square. But if we're in the higher octave of it, it's being transparent. It's being okay with the wound. It's admitting that it's there. It's giving it the love it deserves. It's being able to express it. I mean, I know when I'm triggered in my relationships, I'm just going to be like, I do my best to just be like, okay, I know it's not you. It probably isn't you, but maybe it is. Can we talk about this? And because it kind of reminds me of the way so-and-so, and it's like, I'd rather that than just, I don't know, react to it or project. So, recognizing so much with the zodiac and how these inversions happen, that's a good one to catch ourselves on, because as we notice, people that are wounded tend to act out, or they want to wound other people, they want to blame other people, they want to project. So a good way to really handle some of the intense Chiron energies as the wounds come to the surface is realizing that we're purging the wounds of the earth. We're purging the wounds of humanity. We've been born into a gaping wound. We all carry a piece of that bigger wound on a personal level, the micro-macro connection, in order to bring about this great healing. And it's through the zodiac alchemical laws that this healing is happening. So the zodiac structural principles are both energetic and geometric blueprints based upon lunar zodiacal imprints that were generated by the invading races to suppress human consciousness with the lunar matrix, which is currently being dismantled and realigned with the alchemical laws inherent in 3 natural laws of God. So Lisa Renee. And so one of my favorite parts of the presentation, and I don't know how much time I have left. Am I okay for? 15. Okay, perfect. So now that the 13th has landed, it's reversing the inversion of the dodecahedron and the 5th element that has not really been available, and how that's been, the reversal grids is to keep that 5th element in reversal, and that's why the pentagram is upside down, and the Satanists use that symbology of the inverted pentagram to show that the ether is in the ground, in reversal, dark mother reversals, and this reversal grid technologies. But RNA's primary responsibility is to make proteins according to the instruction sets encoded within a cell's DNA. However, in RNA, the nitrogenous base is based up of nucleic acids, is made up of nucleic acids: cytosine, guanine, adenine, and uracil. Also, each of the RNA nucleic acids is connected to the elemental substance of the planet as air, water, fire, and earth. In both DNA and RNA, the mitochondrial DNA serves as the fifth principal element of cosmic ether, which is sourced only from the mother. Thus, through the mitochondrial DNA damage, humanity is grossly addicted to consuming everything in the external world to fill this energy void within our cells. Multiple sources, including Lisa Renee and this husband and wife team, Hager and Becker. So the mitochondrial DNA is connected to the fifth element, ether, and also the return of the mother, which is represented in the 13th sign, or it's revealed that it's here in the 13th sign. And it used to be in reversal. So the themes connected with Ophiuchus, which is the 13th sign, the 13th gate, the 0-point unified field, which the sun started moving through in 2010. November 30th to December 17th of every year, we move into this, which is the solidification of the organic ascension timeline. Is basically, the properties are creatrix connectivity, pure transparent crystalline light, divine mother and the cleansing power of cosmic love, recoding the DNA, aligning to the cosmic heart of Lyra in Andromedan universal center, rebirthing, cleansing the blood, breath, and mitochondria. It's actually ruled by Chiron, the wounded healer. So all that pain, it's about the unconditional love of the mother that is bringing alchemy and transformation to it through love, through the heart. And the element is divine fire water. It's the golden gate. So when we talk about the golden age, the lead of this human experience of the dark Saturn lead is turning into gold. The rings are dissolving. Saturn's becoming a law of structure to hold and contain our multidimensional divine human nature. So this phase is the solar alignment with the cosmic ether, which is at the core of the galactic center, which represents the pouring of healing spiritual waters into the earth and humanity from Mother God. Previously, these waters were corrupted by entrapping the mother principle and gold ray seraphim on earth. So that's ES material. 13th sign Ophiuchus, and symbolically Sophia as Hara, the cosmic womb, highest expression. Source healer, flame holder, codex weaver, the one who remembers and restores. It's the remedial tone that they tried to keep out. Every dark technology I talked about was to keep this out. Serpent wisdom without inversion, quantum healing and spontaneous regeneration, DNA reweaving, soul retrieval, timeline mastery, rebalancing masculine, feminine polarities, guardian of sacred knowledge. So this is on the other side of the Chiron. By simply being able to, so if you count the spheres, there's 13. The 12 tree grid is the 12 spheres. The 13 in the 12 tree grid represents the cosmic trinity, 13, 14, and 15. 13, the mother arc, 15, the father arc, 14, the Christ Sophia. That's the cosmic trinity. So what the 13 does, the 13 tone, unlike the 12 structural tones, is not a part of the original framework. It is the remedial frequency, the return code that descends when the original system becomes compromised, weaponized, or inverted. It only enters when the 12 tones are fragmented, the grids are hijacked, the DNA templates are sealed, and the planetary consciousness is looping, and the zodiac is turned into a prison. So that's why it was prophesied that after this 26,000 year cycle at the last fall of Atlantis, when the dark technologies really, really took hold, and the 13 families and all that began to be established, all the psyops, false flags, world wars, you name it, this energy has returned to the planet, to the crystal earth, to the core, within all of our beings, as we allow this in to activate what is already there that has been dormant, which is our connection to Source Mother. That is a part of this planet. So it is below our feet, and it is in the galactic core. It's in the ions. It is in the Ein Sof Or. So in its highest expression, this constellation represents the potential blueprint of divine perfection in a human being. It also represents the pending birth of the Christ child growing in the womb of the Divine Mother. It is one with all things and has no opposite. The negative alien agenda had control over aspects of the 12 constellation transmissions, which had resulted in more extreme negative polarities in the world of forces, in order to achieve their intended objective of control over matter forms and to influence humanity into the negative polarity and to use planetary dark matter for running AI machinery. They take advantage of our wounds and how we are unconscious to them. That's why there's all these trigger events. That's why there's all this madness sometimes on social media. They want to leverage this Chiron energy and invert it so we do not connect with this 13. We do not connect with the higher octave of Chiron, the unconditional love of the mother, the ether element that's connected with Chiron, which means that all those wounds, all that trauma can be alchemized through the love of the mother. And of course the father, who they're in union. But the mother had to enter this particular planet to reconnect us to the true cosmic trinity and move through all those lower creator God archetypes. And that again is ES. So it's a combination, it's kind of like a hodgepodge of all certain downloads and things that have backed up some of those other slides. And so that's really great, because every year, if you're starting to really run out of healing inspiration, November 30th to December 17th, every year, it's the great cosmic bathing of ether elements. So every year, we get closer and closer to the goal. And we don't have to wait till that month either. It's always with us. So when we begin to heal and we're just in the window of the Lion's Gate, when we begin to lift that veil, when we allow that alchemy and we allow that unconditional love of the mother to really move through us, to dissolve the seals and fences that have been put in our DNA, which is the dark Saturn that tries to keep it alive through tyranny and control, we begin to activate the 8th and 9th chakra. So the morphogenetic chakras begin to galactivate, identity to multiple awarenesses of star intelligences, other identities and lifetimes. The moving halo is gyroscopic with the center axis in the pineal gland. It's the morphogenetic chakra 8 gold, thymus, permanent seed atom of the crystal heart. Morphogenetic chakra 9 silver, atomic doorway, mouth of God, projector of light consciousness. And it's the first stage of the true integration of the masculine and feminine. And that forms an infinity spiral around our heads. So being the 8th of August yesterday in Lionsgate, maybe we'll notice that we all have spinning 8s around our heads, since we're all doing the work and clearing all this mindfully. So once that clears, that's the 8th and 9th. We start with the 6th and 7th, level 1 building wings. It's the third eye and the crown. We move into that level 2. It's the second stage of this alchemical marriage, crystal lotus heart. And then level 3, Hyros Gamos, Christos, hydroplasmic light, 10, 11, 12. So those higher dimensions, the Lyra, Avatar, higher harmonic universe, 10, 11, 12, is literally the best part of the love story. So it's all a love story. And that's why I brought up the divorce earlier, because when we divorce it, then we have true love, right? We all know that when you get out of that bad partnership, you open up your field to the possibility of true love, sacred union, hierogamic union. And that's what's happening on a creational level when we cut the cords and we stop consenting to this dependency bond with an inverted system that harvests and siphons us to have us enable an engineered future and reality that we do not need to be a part of. So the upside down pentagram represents being trapped in physical matter, going into the underworld labyrinth, and the Venus transits correct this. We have been in the process of turning it upright again, which allows the energy circulation to activate dormant DNA and galactic chakras. This is the soul alchemy. We're born into a huge wound. We each are called to come and heal. And so the storylines we live out are there to help us wake up and heal personally and things way beyond ourselves. So we are the powers that be. They're the powers that stole. We're not victims to our circumstances. We came in to come in and bring resolution, correction, and to walk through the inversions and bring it back into alignment, bring it back to source and unconditional love. And in doing that, no matter how difficult our lives have been, no matter how much challenge we've gone through, it's because you are a badass soul mission warrior. So I'm going to end on this note. More than once throughout history, your governments have been offered from the star visitors free energy, healing technology, simpler divines of living such as housing well spaced apart, much simpler methods of producing food, and water in an abundance. They were also offered a design for a vehicle which can be used for travel over land, sea, and by air. Old minds of ignorance have always refused to change, leaving those they continue to rule over to suffer as slaves to their unwarranted and unnecessary needs. So this book was given to me by this woman. This book has never been published. It's Guardians of the Cell Worlds. I bring it up in my book. I only have 3 copies with me. So this group and what was in this book, the reason she gave it to me is because they said they're talking about Eisenhower, they're talking about you and your friends. So what was never shared with military officials in early 1953 from the Star visitors, except for the exception of this one man, was that an infiltration plan into human society worldwide was already in effect as late as of 1952. It doesn't mean that there weren't migrations before that. It's just they weren't as big. 1952 was the same year that there was an unconditional surrender instrument under Truman where we surrendered to the ICC Nazi Draco alliance. You will not hear about that. The minute I even breathed a word about it, I lost my YouTube channel for life, banned for life. So they do not want us to know this. And so a whistleblower named Dan Cooper, who I mention a lot in my book, gave me all this information. This particular part of it, though, comes from the Guardian of the Cell Worlds. So the migration of many light lives to enter the newly born here amongst you would all become a new generation of people, each with a specific talent and soul memory imprinting of specific tasks to be carried out in your future. Again, this secret plan was shared only with this one man of great importance within the United States government. Only he fully understood the dire necessity for the whole truth to be told. He was offered a gift on behalf of the Guardians to enter his future family life. And that life did arrive today and still today continues to fight on his behalf for the truth to be known by all who are waiting. So she said that that was me. I'm like, okay. I'm like, goosebumps. I was having a really bad week and I was like, I can't. And so that was helpful. So I was told numerous times over the years that was the case. I was an advisor to him in his administration. I volunteered to come in. And so they are amongst us, all of you, right? We're all light lives. Everybody that isn't awakened to the fact that they're a light life is going to awaken to it, because it's not just for certain individuals. It's just the ones that are holding what this is talking about, we remember. So we have the role of helping others remember to activate that light life within them, because we all have the same potential to stand in our full divine blueprint and to be in a higher intelligence, which isn't an intelligence that's ego-driven. I'm better than you, I'm smarter than you. It's a higher intelligence that listens to your higher self, your authenticity, your truth, and you can see through the programmings. So, and the new migration program members would grow and learn to travel the world many times over, gathering hidden information, as all these things listed: technical experts, IT specialists, astronauts, astronomers, scientists, archaeologists, language experts, paleontologists, marine biologists, inventors, architects, builders, herbalists, botanists, mentors, scenic photographers of land, sea, air, and beyond, artists, authors, and whistleblowers. So a huge migration of souls came in. It really helped Eisenhower, who had like 8 heart attacks, knew what was happening, tried to warn us, worked with Val Thor. But when he found out about this and he was briefed, he was at peace, because he knew that we would come, we would overthrow the deep state, we would overthrow the dark government and the control that was upon us, that he recognized. And there was 30 levels of top secret above him. They literally blamed him for everything that they were doing to hide their Black Ops projects, MJ-12 and all these 3-letter organizations. So anyway, their purpose is to be the change in the world, standing side by side with those like yourselves that have been living under the rule of ignorance and deception without any intervention for so very long. Ignorance is responsible for the truth about your origins being withheld from you all. Dogmatic, political, and religious zealotry are very twisted and dark roots that took hold over societies long ago. The lies must stop. Through a united effort amongst all light lives, they have and still continue to create and build various ways to make it possible to share and communicate worldwide the truth of all that has been withheld from you. So this is all of us, and in doing this together, we help to awaken that light within individuals that might still be struggling with remembering or with amnesia. And this is the most exciting part, because it's up to us. We have everything we need. We don't have to wait for the governments to disclose anything. We are not going to be rewarded Ascension, because we are the Ascension. We hold those codes. We already embody it. We have to just simply remember, in the face of everything that wants to take it away or hijack it or cause us to feel that it's something outside of us or something unattainable because of the state of the world. The path of ascension is not determined by what's in the news, what's going on around us. It's in our hearts, it's in our soul, and it's something we get to celebrate and share together. And that's why this is one of my favorite events for that celebration and for that acknowledgement. So Val Thor was indeed connected to higher benevolent groups, but his true alliance was with the guardians of the Christic blueprint, not the hierarchical federations that later claimed association. Eisenhower refused treaties that would compromise human freedom, especially those offered by Greys and deceptive factions posing as saviors. He held the line against the infiltration of negative ET alliances into Earth's military-industrial systems. Eisenhower was not simply a military strategist or political figure, he was a timeline guardian. His documented and still being revealed communications with Val Thor, his refusal to surrender Earth's sovereignty, and the quiet formation of Earth Alliance and White House factions within the military were not passive chapters of history. So he established those things in his time, and he ordered an invasion on Dulce Underground Base and later Area 51. The Dulce Underground invasion happened in 54, but they will not air that information. They'll say in 1954 he signed a treaty with the Greys. So my information from whistleblowers, people that were in Dark Fleet that did 20 and backs, that are now senior advisor to the Earth Alliance, and the black hats that turned into white hats because of these programs to redirect their energy because they were weaponized humans, have exposed this. And so that's good because somebody in that position needed to speak on behalf of all of us in that government structure. But even if he hadn't, we came in, we know, we're the powers that be. Again, they're the powers that stole. And even on a cosmic level, Venus, the unconditional love of the mother, has been waiting thousands of years to drop back into her body. And that's what the Venus transits are. If you look close, you can't see it, but this forms a perfect pentagram. The Venus transits, which is the heart of the mother, which is the heart of creation, which is the heart within us, has formed a perfect pentagram. And the Venus alignment with Earth over 8 years, last one, 2012, I believe, June 4th or 5th, 6th? Between 4th and 6th. Okay, 6th. June 6th. Every 8 years, right? So turning that inversion upright again. So on a cosmic planetary system level, Venus, which is the archetype connected to Magdalene, the divine feminine, and the divine feminine that goes into the underworld like Inanna and Magdalene and all these archetypes of the divine feminine. This is all the track of the Venus energy, which forms a sacred geometry of a rose. So the Venus transits have turned this pentagram upright again, landed into the planet again in 2010, and we are in alignment with it. And because of that, we bring this in. And in doing that, we reverse the mark of the beast. We nullify the possibility of total enslavement. So we're one with the heart of the mother, with the crystalline diamond sun within the earth. We have diamond sun DNA, and the mother resides within us and is a part of the Sophionic corrections and the remedial tone of the 13, waiting to just drop back into her body. I don't know if she's sitting there waiting, but she's doing her thing with Venus, getting back in there. So I hope, just one last slide from the Gospel of the Essenes, the Essene Gospel of Peace. This is one of my favorite quotes. So the law is living word of living God to living prophets for living men, and everything that is life is the law written. You find it in the grass, in the tree, in the river, in the mountain, in the birds of heaven, in the fishes of the sea, but seek it chiefly in yourselves. For I tell you truly, all living things are nearer to God than the scripture, which is without life. God so made life and all living things that they might be the everlasting word, teach the laws of true God to man. God wrote not the laws in pages of books, but in your heart and in your spirit. They are in your breath, your blood, your bone, in your flesh, your bowels, your eyes, your ears, and in every little part of your body. They are present in the air, in the water, the earth, in the planets, in the sunbeams, in the depths, and in the heights. So I love that. And it's not to say that, scripture and books don't have an incredible amount of insight, but the most beautiful connection and place that we can experience God's source is in the nature around us. And we hold the elements within us, in our DNA, and we're literally purifying the nucleic acids of our DNA, the inner elements of earth, air, fire, water, ether. And when we do that within ourselves, the earth has no choice to respond, and that is the Ascension timeline. So thank you, everybody.